TYT interviews everyone. Jayar Jackson, no, not Cenk Uygur, but I'm thrilled to have a friend of mine, author, writer, journalist, screenwriter. I mean, this guy's done everything. Darren Hackett with me to talk about his new book and the crowdfunding sourcing, the way he got it funded, the way he put it together, which I know as fans of the Young Turks, you guys know the way we helped put together this craziness we have behind us. The book, first of all, we'll say it again, The Antiquity, an LA crime novel. As you guys know, I'm not much of a big time reader, especially novels and things, because I just like to sit down after reading about politics and just kind of do nothing. Let my brain melt a little bit. But this one really does read like a novel. You can tell your screenwriting accolades when it comes to something like this. I loved it. So first of all, it surrounds a detective, the main character being a detective, about how he's investigating this crime. So a little bit more on that before without telling anyone the full story.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This is very exciting. I like to pitch it a few different ways, and one of the ways that I pitch it is that homicide detective Jack Sheridan confronts the demons of his past, and in the process unravels a deadly 2,000-year-old mystery that has everything to do with a long-lost ancient biblical relic. So it's sort of like, Michael Connolly meets Dan Brown.
Okay, yeah, so, and also the setting is in LA, as I was mentioning.
Right.
So the visuals that I was getting from it, I mean, I was getting pinpoint to the point of where in the city this was taking place. And I was like, oh, I was right there. I was there yesterday. You know? I know that stoplight takes that long to change. I mean, the detail of what goes in this book and the intersection of characters was amazing to me. So as you guys know, also we were tweeting about it during the launch week.
And I really
online.
appreciate that.
And it was great. A lot of people responded. It was fun times. I really hope you guys are enjoying it. In fact, you will be able to tweet at Darren, as you've probably halfway through the book by now, about how much you love it, because I know you do. So let's talk a little bit about the funding for it.
Okay.
As we mentioned, through Kickstarter program,
yes.
You put up for a $10,000 goal, except you exceeded it. So tell me how the process went with just having to set that up and why you even started thinking of it that way.
Okay. It all started when a friend of mine read half of the manuscript, and he was very excited about it. But at the time, we had just had our son, and that required a lot of my time and was a big responsibility. And so that took me away from being able to work on the book, which had already taken, at that point, about 7 years of my life. Yeah. And so I was afraid that I might never finish it. Once my son started to walk and needed me a little more, I should say a lot more, I wanted to make sure I was there for him, and I knew it would be tough if I hadn't finished the book.
Right.
And so this friend of mine said, well, you should try to get a publisher to give you an advance on the rest of the book. That way I could take some time off of work and focus full-time during the day on writing the book, and then spend time with my family at night. I went looking for that online, did some research to find out if I could secure any kind of funds that would help me finish the book, and also self-publish it, because I wanted to take it all the way through, not just finish the book, but finish writing it and also publish it, get the cover designed, everything. I wanted to do the whole package. And so I couldn't find anything online that would that was the right fit for me. Publishers at that point had stopped giving advances to unknown writers like me.
How does that generally work? I mean, it's something like a publisher. So if they don't give it to first-time writers, how does anyone become a second-time writer? You know, if the first time was never get it done. Like, I mean, it's part of the business. I mean, I've talked to musicians sometimes about how the business is the business the way it is, and you have to try and do things on your own, but it seems impossible. I assume it's a similar way with this. So when you're approaching them, is it is a hope that something will come, or do you feel like you're going to get taken for what you've already put half your life into?
Well, you know, I learned as I was researching for funding sources that's just not even done anymore, and the only people who do get these advances are people with some amount of credibility or credits in the literary world. But for people like me, we just have to do it on our own. You know, make the investment on a personal level before anyone will take notice. Well, I didn't have those kinds of funds to reach into my pocket and
like most
commit,
people, honestly.
right?
Yeah.
To commit $10,000 to getting the uninterrupted time to create the rest of the book and also to see it through to its finished form. That's why I was so excited while during that search, I found Kickstarter. And I had never heard of Kickstarter before, and it was not a household name at that point. I decided that I wanted to put together a campaign to help fund this project. And it took me 3 months to do it because I knew that I only had one shot, that once I presented this to the world, if it wasn't tight, people were not going to invest in it. So I put together a video, I put together a written description, and I also spent a lot of time, perhaps the most time next to the video, choosing which Kickstarter rewards I was going to offer and figuring out the tiers, the different levels where people would need to donate and to make it cost effective so that I could pay for all of the rewards and also have enough money to finish the project and publish the book.
Like, it has to be every aspect of what basically the whole business would be doing. You have to figure it and do it yourself. So let's get into the background of what you've done, which maybe sets you up to be able to do all this. I mean, like I mentioned, author now, but also writer. I mean, as far back as the Washington Post, the Miami Herald, the Baltimore Sun, screenwriter who actually, he included a suspense thriller for director Richard Donner, which I'm too young to realize the big name directors that did things. I just look at the actors that did the movies, and I don't do the background enough. But I looked into, he directed The Goonies, Lethal Weapon 1 and 3, and Superman, the movie, I think is the specific name, from 1978. Right. So he was part of who you were doing things with the film industry through, which maybe, I mean, when you see this intersection of so many different businesses and how to get something going, because we see the pushing of movies and how they're always in your face, did any of that background, or at least maybe, I don't know how you went from one, I guess, profession to another, all in the same kind of realm, I feel like, how that helped set up to come to this one place?
The screenwriting experience that I had, it was all about long-form storytelling, and that set me up for being able to work on the Antiquity. I learned how to develop characters. I learned how to create character arcs and how to introduce plot points and all of the mechanics of screenwriting, which I thought would make it easy for me to write this book because I had spent 10 years as a screenwriter and had really paid my dues there and gone through the hard work of learning that particular craft, because that's really what it is. It's a craft, and you have to, like with any craft, nurture it and spend a lot of time getting to where you want to be with it. And so I figured long-form storytelling, character development, dialogue, no problem. It'll probably take me, I don't know, based on the screenplays that I've written, this book will probably take me 3 or 4 years to write. It ended up taking almost 11.
Now, okay, because
and that was naivete.
Right, because so part of it being like you research things for a screen, for the screen, right? But you research things for the book. So is that part of what it was? You have to research every aspect of. I mean, you've been to every corner of this city, probably, of what you've had to research to do it. Was that part of it?
That was part of it. Yeah, I set out to make Los Angeles a character in this book because I love this city, and I really wanted it to come through in the pages of the narrative, and so. When I selected a location for one of the scenes to take place in the book, I spent a lot of time researching the history of that particular location. The farmer's market, for example, at the corner of 3rd and Fairfax. We're all familiar with it, but I had no idea that that particular plot of land had such rich history. And I won't give anything away here, but it's in the book, and researching all of those particular aspects took a lot of time. And I'm not someone who just goes online and finds some information and then include it in my book. It's all about corroboration, cross-referencing, and that takes a long time.
Yeah, to actually and be there and do it for real, rather than just looking up as you were saying. So, okay, so again, the background, I didn't realize this part. From the Washington Post and the Miami Herald and the Baltimore Sun, what kind of work was it there with your writing there?
Well, that all started off by accident, believe it or not. I was in high school and I needed an elective to take. And some friends of mine were in the journalism class, and they published the school newspaper. And so, because all of my friends were in the class, I said, oh, why not? I like to write. I'll jump into this class. It's an elective. Well, come to find out, I was actually pretty good at writing these news articles. And so, during my senior year, I learned of an opportunity with the Baltimore Sun. At the time, this is way back when, at the time they were really trying to groom minority journalists for the newsroom. And so they had a contest. It was an essay contest. So I entered the essay contest, and the winner would receive 4 years paid tuition at the University of Maryland to study journalism and a summer internship every year in between their years at school. And then upon completion, they would get a job as a reporter at the Baltimore Sun. I said, that sounds great to me.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Do they still offer that?
I didn't get the scholarship, but I was the second runner-up. They called me and offered me a position as a reporter for the summer. So I didn't get the scholarship, but I got the internship.
Okay.
The internship that first summer after I graduated from high school gave me an opportunity to actually go out and report stories. That's the way that they did it at the time. I'm pretty sure they still do it that way. They throw reporters into the water and say swim. The intern reporters, that is. So I got to cover some pretty big stories. And that internship led to another writing experience at the Washington Post, which led to the Miami Herald. And it really gave me a nice background in storytelling and wordsmithing and character development, really, because you interact with people as a reporter, you listen to the way they speak because you have to take down the words as they say them, and that really set me up for what was to come next. However, I didn't know that I would be leaving the world of journalism. It was actually an experience that I had while working for the Washington Post. I had to cover a double murder-suicide.
So exactly what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
If there was something from your experiences that lead into something like this. Yeah.
It was tough because on the first day, I went and covered the story. And the short of it is this: there was a woman who had just gotten married, and she came back from her honeymoon and went to her parents' house and opened the door and discovered that both of her parents had been murdered by her brother. So the brother shot and killed the parents and then killed himself. So that was the story that this young intern reporter was sent out to cover.
And this, about what age were you?
I was 19. So I went out, and the first day it was not a problem. I got all the facts that I needed, came back to the newsroom, wrote the story, saw the story the next day in the paper, and was very proud of it because at that point in time I was collecting bylines to further my career. I was like, oh, this is front page on the Metro section, excellent. Well, then my editor came over and said, I want you to go back to the house. I want you to go back out there and talk to the family members to see what made this guy tick. Like, why would he do something like this? And I said, really, you want me to go back out and knock on the family's door? He said, yes, absolutely. And so I got in the car, I drove back out to the house, and on the first day, there was like a media circus. News vans everywhere, coroner's office, police cars, neighbors looking, big circus. The next day when I drove up, there was no one there. It was just me and my car pulling onto this quiet residential street. Got out of the car, went up to the door, knocked on the door, and was cussed out like I'd never been cussed out before by 2 old women. They were elderly women, and they were using language that I didn't think elderly women used. And it was at that moment that I decided, I don't want to do this. I don't want to knock on the doors of people who are suffering just to get a story for the newspaper. So that's when I started to look into other avenues that I would be able to use my storytelling and writing ability. And that's when I decided that I needed to move to LA and get started in the film business.
No, I had no idea that was the background that I was wondering if maybe you'd seen enough things or there was auxiliary experiences. That's an amazing story. I had no idea that happens.
I knew that I didn't want to be in journalism anymore, but I still had one more internship to do. And that one was in the feature department at the Miami Herald. So I knew that I would be getting writing experience and storytelling experience at the paper, but I wouldn't be going out to cover crime stories.
Right.
And so I guess it's kind of ironic that I ended up writing a crime story after I had that experience at the Post. I guess maybe it was just a little too real for me, and I needed to dive into some fantasy writing.
Now let's get into a little bit of what happened for the release with Amazon. Let's talk about the ways that people can get their hands on it.
Okay.
And I mean, honestly, and also this almost is a tutorial for other writers in trying to get something out of their own. If you have stuff you're trying to get off the ground and you're frustrated, I know a lot of writers give up. And there's probably a lot of amazing material that we'll never get to read. So there's ways you can get your stuff out. And actually, what process did you go through with Amazon and with the, I guess, the funding online and the promo prices for all the books and things like that?
Well, the Kickstarter campaign was really instrumental in helping to give the book project some clout. Whenever I told people that I had a goal of $10,000, but it actually brought in $12,000, people were impressed by that. And I think it made them realize that there was something to the book. There was something there that would have mass appeal potential. That was just as important as actually having the money, because I was able to say to people, once I started moving the book forward in the current promotional period, I was able to say to people, this is a 100% crowdfunded novel. The paperback edition was printed in April of this year. And shortly thereafter, I premiered it at the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books.
That was fun. I was there.
You went there. Yeah, it's great.
Sorry, go ahead.
And it did really well. It exceeded my expectations. I sold 125 copies in 2 days. They were kind of flying off the shelves. It was pretty remarkable, and I felt blessed, you know. And so I knew I needed to parlay that into my ebook launch, which took place on August 3rd, last Monday. And it was very strategic, and I don't know how much of the nuts and bolts of it you want to get into, but the short of it is that I knew I needed to put it out there in such a way that it would tickle the Amazon algorithm, so that during that first week, it would make such a splash that Amazon would have to take notice of it in some way.
Right.
And the strategy worked. And it wasn't my strategy alone. I hired a consultant who's a friend of a friend who has published lots of ebooks on his own, very successful guy. Your viewers might want to look up his work as well. His name is William Massa, M-A-S-S-A. And he is a self-professed Amazon algorithm geek. And so not only is he a writer, but he loves to study how Amazon works. And based on his knowledge, he was able to set me up with a launch strategy that catapulted the book from wherever it was when it started in the rankings. You know, let's say it was like 500,000 in the Kindle store, somewhere low like that. It wasn't even lower, only because the paperback had been selling some copies since April. But on Monday, when the ebook was launched, it went from whatever low number it was on Monday all the way up to 300, number 300 in the Amazon Kindle store by Thursday.
It's amazing. The jump from that is, it has to really be such a thing that you have it down and figure a way to do it. And also, then when people read it, again, you can't just have your bad book out there. It's such a good quality. When people read it, they want to tell someone else, oh, you're missing out. You have to check this out. There's one aspect of it. You were talking to me this morning about the page turning
Right, right.
Another way authors can make something of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so Amazon has this program where people can go online and download the Antiquity if they're members of Amazon Prime. It's a program called Kindle Unlimited. So you can borrow books from the Kindle store, download them to your Kindle, read them, and with every page read, it's calculated on my metrics dashboard. And so there's a running total at the end of every day of all the Kindle readers around the world and people who are using the Kindle app. It tells me exactly how many pages have been read, and I get royalties on all of those pages. It's pretty remarkable, so that there's not just royalties coming from book sales, but also from this new digital age library lending system that Amazon's come up with. So it works out for everyone.
Yeah, it's awesome. And from what you're saying, you've had the full range of from being in the newspaper days to now, and you have to have a grasp of the entire world of how to reach people. Because I mean, at the time, newspapers, it was before internet days when you were doing your reporting, and that was the way a lot of people were going to get the news about what was happening. And then, of course, there's always TV and move on to online. And to be able to have a grasp of how it goes is amazing. Congratulations, I love it.
Thank you.
Excellent book again, let's put up. The Antiquity, an LA crime novel, again, written by Darren Hackett. Excellent, excellent author. Is that you on the cover? Did you model this cover art?
My secret is out.
No, it's an amazing book. You guys check it out. Again, I was tweeting about it and mentioning it to everyone. If you read it, you're going to tell a friend, I guarantee you. It's an awesome book.
Thanks,
and now you know the background that went into it, it's going to be even more. I was reading it and thinking, I see what you're doing to me, Darren. Are you gonna make me keep doing this, right? Yeah, no, your brain is absolutely enthralled with everything that's happening. A great book.
Can I say one other
Definitely.
thing, just to the point that you just made about tweeting about it? It's really interesting that because I'm just going to be honest, the Kickstarter money is long gone. You know, it paid for this really great cover, which was designed by a company in Belgrade, Serbia, actually, which I thought was pretty cool because I never even spoke with them on the phone. It was just all emailing to get the cover designed. Since then, I mean, this has really been about, it's been a social media campaign to get this book to where it is now. And your tweets last week, every time you tweeted, I could look at my dashboard and see that there were sales spikes, actual sales spikes. And so that's the only way that this book has been able to get to where it is because people like you, friends of friends, have been spreading the word about it. And I think that's actually one of the most interesting things about this process, that it's only because of thousands of people out there buying the ebook for 99 cents, buying the paperback for $10.79, that's gotten it to this point, because I have absolutely no marketing behind it, and like in the same way that a major publishing house would come along at this point in particular and say, oh, the book's doing really well after its first week, let's just pump a whole bunch of money at it, keep it visible, and it will continue to roll. But I don't have that. And so that's one of the reasons that every day I'm emailing, I'm calling people on the phone, trying to drum up support and ask them to reach out to all of their people. And that's how it got to where it is.
If this is the type of thing that moves that way, would you write this as a screenplay again? Or like, oh, this was an amazing story, let's put it on the screen. Would you ever go back?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And here's why. Because one of the things that people have been saying once they finish reading the book is that they really want the next one. They want to see a series of Jack Sheridan novels, and I like the way that sounds.
The 11 years, the blood, sweat, and tears you're willing on the next one, it's gonna just flow right to the next one. Beautiful. So again, the book is The Antiquity, and let's wrap it up from there. Thank you again, you guys. We'll see you next time on TYT Interviews with Darren Hackett, author.
Thanks.